Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amanda Kristen, and I am the Complete Streets Advisory Committee Manager. I am broadcasting from inside the office today, hence the mask. And the first couple of slides today are just some housekeeping slides. Please remember to better everyone's experience, use toolbars at the bottom for controls. Please mute your microphone unless speaking. Phone users dial *6. To ask a question or comment, please raise your virtual hand. Users dial *9. So today's March 8th, 2021. Welcome to the CSAC meeting. We have a very packed agenda for you today. And I'd like to first ask Ricardo Gutierrez, who is the mobility manager for the Broward MPO, to try to introduce those virtually who are on the meeting with us today. Ricardo?
Sorry, I'm muted. I apologize. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ricardo Gutierrez. I'm with the Broward MPO. So I'm going down the list. So when I call your name, please state your name and the agency that you work from. You work for. Okay. So we'll start with Andrew Dewsbury. Andrew, you there? I think Andrew is not. That's probably muted. All right, let's go next with Brad Swing.
Yes, present.
And Brad Swing, you are with?
City of Sunrise, sorry.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brad. Thank you for being here. Celestine Donmore.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
City of Lauderdale Lake. Sorry.
Thank you, Celestine. Larry Wallace.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Larry Wallace is here.
FDOT, thank you. Welcome, Larry. Chris Torres.
Hello, Chris Torres, City of Lauderhill.
Christina Miskus. Oh, God. Christina, are you there? Some audio difficulties. Christina will recognize you here now. Azita from the City of Hollywood. I think I see you in. We're having some technical difficulties today. Brent Johnson.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Brent, with the City of Oakland Park. Danielle Manicello. Danielle. Don't hear Danielle either. David Francis.
Hey, David Francis, American Heart Association. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, David. Eric Katz.
Good afternoon, Eric Katz, FDOT Transportation Data Analytics Office.
Thank you, Eric. Michael Righetti. Michael?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Michael is here, and you are with? I guess Michael, can't hear Michael. Ken Reinhardt.
Yeah, good afternoon, Ken Reinhardt, AARP.
Yeah, Josette?
Josette Severn, Broward County.
Hello.
Welcome, Gisette. I'm listening.
Okay, I'm back.
And that is Michael?
Yes, I apologize. Michael Rigetti, City of Coconut Creek, Sustainable Development.
Thank you, Michael. Mohan? Mohan, are you
Yeah,
there?
Mohan Gopalakrishna Karnahan Proctor Cross. I'm the traffic engineer. I'm a consultant serving several municipalities in Broward County. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you. Judy Erickson.
Yes, Judy Erickson, City of Fort Lauderdale.
Welcome, Judy. Shelby Rodriguez.
Hi, Shelby Rodriguez, City of Fort Lauderdale.
Hello.
No. Then we have Lenny Human.
Hi, this is Lenny. I'm with the Broward County Planning Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Lenny. We have Nixon LeBron. Nixon. I apologize for mispronouncing your last name. Love you. All right, Nixon is here somewhere. We just can't hear him right now. Ryan Gates.
Hi, this is Ryan Gates. I'm a resident of Coral Springs, but I'm not here with any organization, just kind of interested.
Okay, thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Tina Ju.
Hello, this is Tina Ju with Planning and Development Services for the City of Deerfield Beach.
Hello. Welcome.
Welcome. Amanda, I'm having difficulties going through this list. I don't know what, for time's sake, let's go. If we missed you, please, would you introduce yourself, please?
Azita Behmardi with City of Hollywood.
Welcome. How about Vicky Gatanis?
Vicky Gatanis, SFRTA, Tri-Rail.
And there's a couple of people on the phone. If you'd like to introduce yourself, if I have missed you, if we've missed you, go ahead.
I wanted to make sure I wasn't muted. Can you guys hear me? Chris Torres, City of Lauderhill.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Also, Sal Suniga, City of Miramar.
Oh, Sal. Okay.
Oh, welcome. Thanks, Sal, for coming.
And I'll jump in. This is May Hanslick with the National Complete Streets Coalition and Smart Growth America. Thank you for having me today.
Our esteemed guest. Thank you so much, May. Nice to meet you.
This is Karen Warfel from the City of Fort Lauderdale.
Hi, Karen.
Welcome, Karen.
Buffy Sanders, Broward MPO staff.
Yeah, let's go to the MPO staff if we missed anybody.
Darcy Mayer.
Hi, Darcy Mayer, Broward MPO.
Welcome. Renee Cross.
Broward MPO staff.
Mark Brown.
Nixon LeBron, City of Miramar.
And Mark Brown, if you'd like to introduce yourself, go ahead. I think that's it, Ricardo.
Okay.
James Cromer's here with Broward MPO.
Oh, yeah, we can't miss James.
Yeah, and Stephanie Garcia, also Broward MPO, Complete Streets Manager.
Perfect.
I'm here as well, Carrie McNeil, Broward MPO staff.
Excellent.
Paul Calabrese, Broward MPO staff.
Perfect. Okay, I think we're done. Thank you so much. Everybody, welcome. Welcome to the March CSAC meeting. We're going to start with our first presentation, and I think it's me, right, Amanda? I think
it sure is. Mr. Ricardo Gutierrez doing the 2021 Safe Streets Summit report.
Perfect. You can go. So today, I just wanted to give you a quick recap of the 2021 Safe Streets Summit that took place in January 28th and 29th of this year. So I'll give you some information about that. If you can go to the next slide. So the Safe Street Summit, by the numbers, we had about 406 people registered, which is, we met our goal. Typically, we have around 500 or more registered, but being that this is our first virtual, it was our first virtual conference. Actually, that were, you know, we actually met our goal. We needed to have 400 people. So we're hoping to get back to the 500 next year. So yeah, for those who attended, thank you. We did get a lot of elected officials also registered for the event, 31 elected officials. And also we had 35 board members from all three agencies, the Miami-Dade TPO, the Palm Beach TPA, and also the Broward MPO. The numbers by the county, like always, you know, Broward always comes number one. We always have the most attendance on this the Safe Street Summit. However, it's pretty close this year. We usually win by a lot more. Out-of-state participants, we had 25. And also we have participants from Mexico, Netherlands, and Canada. So we went international this year. Next slide, please. Deep dive sessions, you know, one of the most attended session, of course, we always expected this, the trail-oriented development. Kind of hard to compete with the Longland Trail, the Underline, and the Atlanta Beltline. However, the highest rank or rated session was really number 10, how we got it wrong, a story of success in prioritizing walking and biking. This is the story of West Palm Beach, actually, and how they actually prioritize moving people instead of vehicles, and how they created this, one of the most exciting, most vibrant downtowns in entire South Florida. So very good presentation. Hoping to have more presentations like this next year. Next slide. And like always, we also like to recognize some of our Complete Streets champions that have actually helped us move forward the concept of Complete Streets. Our individual champion this year is a former CSAC member. So I'm hoping to see some CSAC members next year nominated and perhaps even win. Sheila Rose with the Director of Sustainable Development with the City of Coconut Creek. And we also wanted to recognize the City of Weston. City of Weston was one of the cities that actually got it right from the beginning. They incorporated all modal transportation as part of the planning. So ways to slow down traffic, bike lanes and sidewalks, and a lot of landscaping. It really is one of the cities that actually was planned right from the beginning. Next slide. And if you want to revisit the 2021 Safe Street Summit, all the presentations, videos are already online. So you can see the website there. We made it really easy for you guys to find it. You know, you just got to go to safestreetsummit.org. If you come back, /2021 presentation, !MC_CID equals 02C2. You guys know what I mean. There'll be a link at the presentation. So thank you, Amanda. That concludes my presentation. And guys, see you guys in Miami for the 2022 Safe Street Summit. All right, that's all for me. Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks. Thank you, Ricardo. Our next presentation, Stephanie Garcia will be discussing, she's the Complete Streets Manager, as she just introduced herself, the Tactical Urbanism Program that we are initiating here at the Broward MPO. Stephanie?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Stephanie Garcia. I just have a quick question. The Let's Go Biking event, okay, so I don't know if you noticed, but everyone here that works for the MPO have a background, a really nice background created by our PIO team. We are celebrating the Florida Bike Month this month, March. And in order to do so, we wanted to continue engaging the community by celebrating through a virtual bike challenge. So if you don't have the information yet, just scan. Let me see what it is. So okay, yeah, scan the QR code, and you will it's linked with the website. But I don't know if we included more information later on in the presentation. Anyway, this is a quick advertisement for the event. It is free to attend, and it is with great partners. So let's continue with, okay, it is. Thank you, Amanda. So the information is there. As you know, we partner always with RBX, with South Florida Community Services, with Broward B-Cycle in order there are facilities, bike facilities out there, design and plan for them, and that through this event, they can explore those facilities, and of course, why not participate for prizes. So we do have two categories. The first category is the number of miles ridden during the entire month of March, and then the second category is an open category through social media. So anybody who is, biking and visiting destinations, just take a picture and post it online, tag the Speak Up Broward account, and using the hashtag Let's Go Biking, and voila, you are participating officially in the Let's Go Biking, a virtual challenge of 2021. Okay, so let's continue with the presentation. Now we will focus in tactical urbanism. So yes, this is great news. I know the last time we met, we were talking about initiating this program as part of the Complete Streets initiative, and now it is a reality. It was first established in December 2020, but we actually formalized it with a consultant on board, a great team we have, of course, in January 2021. The MPO, as part of the process of identifying projects, not only from the Complete Streets Master Plan, but also, a call for projects to receive some feedback from the community, from the municipalities. We conducted a survey, an online survey with some questions. I know some of you CSAC members already participated and submitted your projects. So we have some of the municipalities are Deerfield Beach, Fort Lauderdale, West Park, Cooper City, Miramar, Wilton Manors, Broward County. Those are the jurisdictions that actually submitted projects for the Tactical Urbanism 2021 program. We are right now in the process of identifying what exactly are the typology of projects that we receive from the different municipalities. We receive from bus stops, beautification, to filling the gaps, including bike lanes as part of the network, incomplete network in some cities, intersection improvements, and safety improvements around schools. So we are really happy that you participated, because we have a really good number of projects to evaluate. So if we go to the next slide. So what is the partnership, right? So we do have this program. How exactly you're going to be partnering with the MPO? So what we are offering through the program is technical assistance. So the idea is that through this partnership, and after confirming what exactly will be the pilot project for 2021, we will work together with the municipality. It is a collaborative approach, of course. We will improve the scope proposed. We will coordinate, what exactly are the stakeholders that we need to get involved in this initiative. We will go on a walk, and we will host a workshop in order to involve the community as part of the scope of the project. We will develop a conceptual plan, street cross sections. We will manage all the installation, the pre-build and build of the intervention, the operations on site, the day of the event, let's say, the day that we will build the installation. We will, of course, collect data, before and after data. We will create a report in order to compare, what exactly are the outcomes of this successful pilot project. And if we go to the next slide, some of the questions that we received from the municipalities that applied, that participated in the survey, where, okay, what is our role? We do have the answers. The idea is that the municipalities will partner and will provide in-kind work. So is city staff involved, of course, helping us with coordinating with the internal departments, process and recreation, public outreach, et cetera, with the police department as well. So it is focused in kind. So there are no funds required. It is having someone as part of the project as a liaison, helping us coordinate and implement this pilot project. So these are some of the different activities that we will request to the cities to help us with. And then let's go to the next slide. Thank you, Amanda. And this is the timeline of the program for 2021. We will select one pilot project for 2021. This does not mean that we are not going to consider the other projects submitted by the municipalities for future years. Totally the opposite. That was the goal of the survey, to have a pot of projects for future years. So this is the timeline. As you know, we are right now in the prioritization, location, and typology of projects. So we are really early in the process, and we are entering into the identification of the project itself and the walk and talk. So you will hear an update soon from the team, the MPO team, and hopefully you are the city that was selected for the first pilot project for the tactical urbanism program. And let's go, perfect. And if you have any questions, you can send me an email and we can talk.
Thanks, Stephanie. So the next presentation, it's not really a presentation, it's just going to be me. I am working diligently on something called the Complete Streets Policy Guidelines. Again, this is Amanda Kristen. It's something that the Broward MPO has decided to put together to complement the design guidelines that were adopted a couple of years ago. And some information. We all know that complete streets are streets designed and operated to enable safe use and support mobility for all users. Like, we as a collective really understand that. But sometimes policies can be a little difficult to enact, and they can be a little difficult to implement. So the purpose of this document would be to create basically a centralized repository of information, which includes an inventory of complete streets policies and plans, et cetera, in Broward County and in South Florida, a detailed examination of complete streets policies by type. What I mean by that is, are these plans, or are these resolutions of support, a departmental directive policy, or any sort of, how is that complete streets policy in a grand term, how is that given teeth to be implementable? Also, it's going to provide an implementation action plan, which is kind of a fancy term for some really comprehensive step-by-step guidance that you can use to tailor these different policy types for your municipality to achieve the result that you want, which is a complete streets criteria for your locality, where you can see action on the ground. It will also have examples of best practice in Broward County, west, east, north, south, big, small, and resources designed to help you adopt a complete street policy that work for your community. So it's going to be broken into 3 parts, basically. First 2 parts are information, literature review, inventory, etc. The last third is going to be what we're really excited about: worksheets, checklists, templates, things that are tangible that you'll be able to refer to sort of choose what elements you think of a different type of policy would work in your community, and sort of cobble them together and offer you guidance on how to get that policy enacted where you live. So we have a timeline for this. Will be probably middle of the summer. We'll be ready to actually present the information to you. We just wanted to give you a little bit of an update about what we're actually working on in that regard. And then, so, you know, some of the information in the last third of the document will ask you the questions that you see on your screen right now. I won't read them, but these are some guiding principle questions to help you get a better idea of what you may need where you live. And thank you very much. And we'll have a little bit of Q&A at the very end of our meeting today. So if anybody has any questions about Safe Streets Summit, Tactical Urbanism, Complete Streets Policy Guidelines, or any of the other presentations, you'll be able to ask those questions. And our next presenter is Larry Wallace. He's going to be doing the FDOT scheduling report. So let's see if we can find.
Can y'all hear me
There
okay?
he is.
Amanda, can you hear me and see me?
You sure can. Yeah.
Great. Okay, my name is Larry Wallace. I'm with the FDOT District 4 Office of Modal Development, and I am the Bicycle and Pedestrian and Complete Streets Coordinator. Today I'm going to just showcase everyone what's called our MPO scheduling report. It's for all 5 counties. And this is something that Ricardo, if you're still on the line, you and I have been trying to work on this for years now. So it is finally developed, and I'd like to share the information with you all today. Next slide, please. Okay, so the frequently asked questions. So what is the report? It's a tabular report. It contains all of FDOT District 4's projects that are currently programmed in the FDOT District 4's adopted work program. And funding is allocated based upon the project's approved scope. And it's created by the MPO, TPO, TPAs, all 5 counties, like I mentioned. And it's provided to the BPAC members, the CAC, which I think is a Citizens Advisory Committee, and the TAC, which is the Technical Advisory Committees. And the benefit is to indicate the project schedule to ensure the stakeholders like the BPAC and the CSAC are aware of the status of projects and provide appropriate input during the scheduled activities. And the various scheduled activities can be provided to MPO's guidance and understanding throughout the design phases. So in other words, when is the best time for appropriate—
Hello? Hello?
Yes? Hello?
Yeah.
Can you all hear me okay? Should I continue?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead. I think somebody actually answered their telephone. So go ahead. I'm going to try to mute. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, next slide, please. So what does each date represent? It represents an anticipated completion date of the scheduled activities, and we'll go through each activities later on in the presentation. And it's sorted by work mix, so work mix will illustrate that in the presentation. And the date is not applicable from the scheduling system. It just means why is it just blank? And we'll go over that again in the presentation. And can this report be provided in Excel or any editable format? It's only in PDF format currently. This was developed by our scheduling department in FDOT. So whatever is given to us from scheduling is probably what's going to be the output. So PDF for now. Next slide, please. Yes, the MPOs for specific questions. This is important. So any project specific questions. So it's related to the scope. My advice would be go directly through either Amanda or Ricardo. So that'll be your point of contact, and then they can communicate that information directly to the PM, and then get that information back to you. Or if you feel more comfortable going directly to the PM, just go ahead and copy Amanda or Ricardo, so that way they're all informed in the correspondence. Now, if you're requesting a copy of the report, feel free to directly contact through me, or go through Amanda, and I provide the report at any time. And my information is down there below. Great. Okay, so now we're starting getting into the project activities and what each activity represents. Amanda, if you have a copy of the report, you can send out to each member, and you can go over this more in detail, but we can go on to the next slide, please. Great. So here's a copy of the reports, page 1 of the report, and it shows the milestone activity dates at the top. And so what I'd like to do is go over each line by line item here for more details. So in the upper left corner, that's the project number, or otherwise known as the FDOT project identification number, or FM number. Then it has a brief description or limits of the project. Then it has the FDOT PM. So if you're wondering what the project entails, what is the project scope, there's your PM contact information there. So like I said earlier, it's best to go through either Amanda or Ricardo to request that information, or if you wish directly to go to the PM, just go ahead and CC Amanda and Ricardo in that email. The contract class, that's if it's a Tallahassee let or a district let, it's more internal information. Same thing for transportation system, if it's interstate, on system or off system. And there you go, there's the work mix. So this is how it's sorted by. So it's from A all the way to Z. So you got your ad lanes, the next sheet will be like bike lanes. Then you have your complete streets projects, sidewalk projects, resurfacing projects. And then, you know, all the way down to like traffic signals and sanitary marking plans. Okay, so the first date there is called your multimodal scoping form checklist date. That is the most important date on this information, on this scheduling report or the MPO. This is the critical time to provide any comments that you may have for the project. Now, at this point in time, the scope has been already defined, so it's more or less just reviewing the scope and providing any minor scope changes or minor scope comments. So what do I mean by minor? Minor could be like, hey, I'd like to go ahead and add a bus shelter, or relocating a bus stop, or adding a bus stop, or adding a, perhaps doing a study on a crosswalk analysis or mid-block crosswalk. Those are sort of like your most sort of comments. Is it the time to ask for comments to widen to the outside, to add a buffer bike lane, to remove curb and gutter and relocate drainage, relocate light poles? No, that's probably not the time to do that. Is it the time to add a shared use path? It's possible, but does it encroaching into design and design funds? So anything that would say that doesn't accrue a major scope change, such as incurring an additional major design cost to the project, it could be evaluated during this time. So adding a signal, if it's warranted, yes, but again, that would incur costs. You know, possibly doing like some sort of lane repurposing analysis, probably not at this time. So, you know, major scope changes, I would advise for this committee is to get with the PM and probably do a standalone project. So seek MPO funding for some sort of standalone project for any sort of project improvements that you would want to make into that project. The next one would be resolution agency. That's for local agency plans, for LAP plans. And then the review of scope with agency. So that's going to be reviewing the scope. So once the scope is confirmed in the schedule, then the scope will be confirmed with the local agency, such as the city or the county or the MPO. And then we hit execution date design. So that's the time that design has been kicked off and a consultant is now on board. Next is the conduct project kickoff meeting. So that's the time again for the MPO to confirm the scope, meet with the design team and the consultant team, and once again, confirm the scope of the project. The initial field review, that's the time where the MPO could meet with the consultant PM and the FDOT PM in the field and just once again review the scope with the project manager. Initial engineering, this is about 33% plans. So at this point in time, roadway plans and signing and pavement marking plans are available for review. And again, this is the time for the MPO to review and confirm the design plans. Next is the public information workshop. This is the time where generally the FDOT has sent out flyers and sent out notification for a public workshop and is in engaging the public for feedback. Next is the constructability plans. That's about 67% plans now. This is the time to confer like construction time estimates. I would say like confirm all permits have been completed, checking summary of pay items and summary of quantities. This is the time you're really doing your checklist for your constructability items. Next is your called the PS&E meeting or plan specs and estimates meeting. This could be another field review meeting. Most of the time it's just meeting with construction to verify all quantities that are confirmed and to confirm that design plans are almost complete. Next is your bidability plans. This is about 90% complete. This is the time where construction has a final cost estimate and plans are about ready to be completed for production. And that leads to the next one on, which is production. It's about 99% complete. I'd say the 1% could be anything that gets sent over to our FDOT final plans office for comments and feedback, and they generally always do. And then they provide that comments back to the project manager for them to be 100% complete, which will be sent to letting. And then letting is our letting date, which is sent to contractors for bid. And then your LAP commitment that deals with local agency plans. And then finally, your notice to proceed for construction. So as you can see, there's a lot of milestone dates, and this is just a dozen of 100 or so in our scheduling activities. So I just wanted to take the top, milestones and share that with you. And these dates do fluctuate. So as a project continues throughout its, wheel, these dates are subject to change. So these are a snapshot from today. So these dates could change tomorrow, next week, or next month, or next year. But at least this gives you a rough estimate of when these dates are due for completion. And at this time, that completes my presentation. Amanda, I'm not sure if we're opening any questions now, or like you said, after the meeting is completed. But that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. No questions after, and you all know how to get in touch with me. You get enough emails from me. If you would like a copy of the scheduling report, just don't hesitate to ask. And we're gonna come to the next part of our MPO current efforts part of the presentation. And that is a brief conclusion of last meetings big agenda, which was to do sort of a state of the committee. And unfortunately, unfortunately, we didn't really have enough time to go over the last two bits, which were the proposed CSAC mission and vision. So I have them here just for you to read, digest, and then provide comment. I will be sending out the full agenda to this meeting, including all the presentations, is available on our website. But I'll be sending these two statements to the email distribution list just so that you can read them and let me know your thoughts and if they need to be tweaked or if we should have any more discussion about them at the next meeting, which will be in May. So I'm going to put it up here on the screen. I'm going to read it. So the mission as proposed, the Broward MPO Complete Streets Advisory Committee helps to create multimodal transportation solutions and policies that enable safe, attractive, comfortable, and independent access and travel for pedestrians, bicyclists, transit users, and motorists of all ages and abilities. So just have a think on that. And then the draft proposed vision is Broward MPO's Complete Streets Advisory Committee creates streets that are safe and comfortable for all people, activated public spaces, and connected transportation networks for everyone that improve the quality of life for all Broward County residents and visitors. So as I said, I'll be sending these two statements to the email distribution list for you to review and confer about. Thank you. And that concludes the MPO current efforts portion of this meeting. The next is going to be our three presentations, but I first want to introduce to you the Mentimeter code, because we do have some questions for you all. So the Mentimeter code, you know, you go to www.menti.com/XPY-HBB-SCZC. And the voting code is 262221. And Stephanie Garcia will be handling Mentimeter as she does usually. So again, www.menti.com/XPY-HBB-SCZC, voting code 262221.
And Amanda, before we start the presentations, can we just have everybody go? There is a question already there about biking for the month of March. Do you think we can wait for those responses before we go to the actual presentations?
Sure, go ahead.
Yes, so I have the Mentimeter ready. Whenever you allow me to share my screen, perfect. We have some answers already. Okay, please let me know that you are able to see the Mentimeter. Yes, thank you. So first question is your city hosting any event during the Florida Bike Month? Okay, so the options were yes, we are excited. No, next year for sure. Or we are teaming up with the virtual Let's Go Biking event. And we have 12 participants in this Mentimeter question. And it seems four municipalities are teaming up with the Let's Go Biking event of the MPO. Those municipalities that are not yet sharing the Let's Go Biking event, there is still time to do it. We are on March 8th, and the event is throughout all the month of March. So just let us know. We can send you information about the event, the different links and images, so you can share the event as well. As this is a virtual, municipalities can, share the information with the communities and engage the residents into exploring their cities. As always, you can reach out to me and I can provide that information. Of course, we are all hoping to host an in-person event next year, and help you promote your events as well. Thank you for your answers. We had 14 participants. Next question that we have is your municipality open to quick build solutions, and what type of solutions? The options are intersection improvements, filling the gaps, bike lanes and sidewalks, mid-block crossings, bus stop enhancements, other, I will tell you later, not yet. Oh yes, you can select multiple options. So it seems most of you think that that you need fill in the gaps. So we need to complete the network, more bike lanes, more sidewalks. And let's see, mid-block crossings. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Then we have bus stop enhancements. Yeah, how we increase ridership by making more visible our bus stops and better. And intersection improvements. We have to make some improvements in order to get people to cross safely. Thank you so much. This is really helpful for us. Perfect. So I will go to the next question. Okay, this is for the this is for the next presentation. That was a quick spoiler.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. Amanda, we turn it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm back. Hope you can hear me. Our first presentation of, outside presentation other than MPO current efforts, we're going to have a 2021 Florida legislative update. This is in reference to how we are going to be sort of modifying the Complete Streets Advisory Committee schedule so that it mirrors and sometimes enhances or reflects what the Broward MPO board will be hearing at their meetings. So Mr. Paul Calvarisi will be making this presentation, and I will give it away to Paul.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, members of the CSAC. Forgive me for the obligatory, can you hear me? Thank you. All right, so I'm Paul Calvarisi, the Intergovernmental Manager at the Broward MPO. So since this is the Complete Streets Advisory Committee, I restricted this presentation to the state of Florida. There is a lot of exciting things going on at the national level, but that's moving a little bit slower. And as we get more information from that, we'll bring it back to you. Thank you. So first, I want to start off with where the Broward MPO is looking statewide. The next two slides are our state legislative priorities. These are developed by staff, but approved by the MPO board, and they really reflect our vision and what we'd like to see changed legislatively. Okay, we are aware that FDOT has many policies, and those can change at any time without the legislature. We're just looking at which laws are on the book, which would changing them or instituting new ones would positively benefit our region. I'm not going to read these to you, but you're going to see there's a theme in this, which are safety and flexibility. For anyone who sat through our MTP development, Peter Gies was very clear about the lack of funding flexibility and how our funding restrictions dictate our project mix. And what we're trying to do legislatively is see if we can expand our local MPO control over those funds to build the projects that we need, thus expanding our Complete Streets program. Let's move on. So the next 5 slides are bills that are currently in progress. I'd like to let everyone know that last week the legislature took a break. So this is actually as up to date as it possibly could be. There's always a danger could you go back one slide? I'm sorry. There's always a danger that while we're going through this, everything becomes outdated immediately. So I'm just going to quickly go through these. We have questions at the end. The first from the Regional Planning Council is a bill that would repeal the RPCs and essentially eliminate them. For what I heard recently, this bill is probably not going to go anywhere. Oh, and also as I go through this, I want to let everyone know that maybe 10% of these bills get passed. Most of them won't go anywhere. Use of wireless communication devices, we're seeing that That's going through that's part of our theme with safety and where and when people can't use their cell phones. Next, please. Thank you. Okay, you might recognize Senator Brandeis out of Tampa. He's really leading the state on EV and AV, and a lot of his bills are in support of that initiative. So he has two. One's for a pilot program, setting aside $5 million. Due to the budgetary constraints this year, this probably won't pass because of that $5 million. Okay, but the other one is creating additional fees for electric vehicles. That's to compensate for the lack of gas tax as a result of the electric vehicles, because they don't buy gas on a regular basis to pay into our state highway trust fund. All right. The next one from Barrero, he's from Miami. That's any increase on certain toll roads would have to go through the county to be allowed. Once again, most likely won't pass. Next. Okay, hazardous walking conditions. We didn't really take a stance on this. The MPO reviews hazardous walking conditions each year. We are just checking to make sure that this doesn't turn into an unfunded mandate. Okay, the Vulnerable Road User Act, creating stiffer penalties and identifying essentially anybody who's not in a car as a vulnerable road user. All right, child restraints is the second year that this one came up. This has a pretty good chance of passing, and this would increase the age from which a child must be in a car seat or booster seat from age 5 to age 6. Okay. Impact fees, instance it's being called where the state is usurping local power, and there's a lot of those bills out. We don't really need to get into those right now. Okay, the top one, bicycle operations, that's really more of a enforcement bill. It's just saying you can't ride a bike unless it has a seat. All right, and you might recognize Hunchofsky, okay? Former Parkland mayor, now Representative Hunchofsky, MPO alumni, has written a bill for the safety of motor vehicles, or sorry, for cyclists. Next, please. Okay. Brandeis, again, advancing automated and EV. The transportation projects is one that we are watching because the limits on where FDOT can spend the money. So remember, going back to our legislative priorities, this one actually does the opposite and removes that flexibility. So this is something we're watching very carefully. Now, Senator Perry, local. This is a bill that came up last year and also did not pass because this does turn into an unfunded mandate, and there'd be millions of dollars to the locals and to the state to institute this law should it become law. And the last one's authorizing Congress to, once again, Brandeis, furthering electric vehicles. So I think we're at the question section now.
Yep. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, we're gonna do questions like brief Q&A after each of these three presentations. I know we have a couple of Mentimeter questions for y'all to answer. And again, if you do have a comment or a question for Paul or any of the other MPO staff regarding any of this information that you just heard about these House bills, just please raise your hand and we will try to be monitoring all of our little avatars basically to see if anybody is anybody wants to make a comment. And I don't see any.
This is James Cormier. Can I ask a question of Paul? Some of the later items that you mentioned with the bike seat and the safety issues with former Mayor Hunchofsky, what are the likelihoods of those moving forward?
Unknown at this point. They might get grouped in with another bill. As far as I know, they're still in committee. They just started back this week, and they'll be hearing. The Transportation Committee will be meeting, So as I get more information, I'll report back to you, James.
And well, into the group, yeah.
And as well to the group.
Thanks.
And also just for the group, don't forget, we develop these policies. They go to our board typically the fourth quarter of the year. And as the CSAC, if you identify laws, if you identify anything specific that's a barrier to instituting, let us know. We can make it a priority. We can get our state advocacy team on this to try and overcome, particularly anything that's just a policy that just prevents you. This legislature has been very big on reducing bureaucracy.
Great. Okay, thank you, Paul. Hold tight. We're going to have a couple of Mentimeter questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and invite Stephanie to share her screen.
Okay, thank you so much, Amanda. And we do have 7 responses so far. And the question is, will you follow up on these bills with your commission? And the options are yes, no, not my area of responsibility. So maybe another question would be, what is the best platform for the MPO to share this information so we can get a city staff to get more involved and maybe have this conversation with the commission? And maybe Paul, I don't know if you want to tell us something about maybe a recommendation after looking at these results from the survey.
I'm sorry, Stephanie, I'm not understanding the question.
So as you can see, most of the answers are not my area of responsibility. So maybe CSAC is not the best platform for us to discuss these. So which one could be the best platform? DAC, the MPO Executive Committee, the MPO Board, CAC.
So we do regular updates to our executive committee and our MPO board, as well as when our TAC members reach out to us directly. So we do brief all of our committees and wanted to be, we didn't want to exclude anyone, which is why we came to CSAC today.
Yes, and kudos to the response that say yes. Will you follow up on these bills with your commission? That's a yes. That's great. I don't know if you want to say something, the person who said yes, and why.
Chris Torres, City of Lauderhill. I just asked that if you can provide us with, you know, a summary of all these bills, or at least those slides that Paul gave us. That way I could actually follow up with my commission. I just think, you know, the intent is there, yes, but I'd rather have that in front of me and some sort of document so I could follow up with my commission.
All the information, all the slides from today's presentation from soup to nuts is available through Agenda Quick. So it's all online already for you. That includes all the text of Paul's slides.
Appreciate your help. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you so much, Chris. We can follow up with you as well.
And this is Karen. I would recommend, if the MPO has positions about certain legislature, that if you share it with us, then we can help align our priorities as well. And we have someone who particularly helps with these types of things, so I can share it with her.
Yeah, so Karen, these go to the MPO board every in the fourth quarter of every year as a public meeting and publicly available.
But I mean, like what you just shared about the actual bills, and you said that the MPO may or may not have had opinions on certain ones. So I think if there are ones that are of extreme concern, or there's an opinion on certain ones, then if you can share those concerns or support of particular ones, then it could be helpful for the cities to join on that advocacy.
Okay, well, thank you for the offer, Karen. We'll definitely take you up on that. Or hopefully we never have to, but if we do, we will.
Thank you, Karen, so much for that recommendation. So we will keep going. Let's go to the next question for this presentation. And the question is, has this committee identified any challenges to complete streets which should be addressed at the state level, such as, and these are just options. If you have any other suggestions, you can raise your hand and tell us. So the options are safety, enforcement, funding, design standards, and education. We do have, it is multiple choice. So you can select more than one option. Thank you. We have 11 responses. And the focus, as we see right now, is safety and funding. Thank you. I think we can keep going, Amanda, with the next presentation. No spoilers this time.
Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to throw up here Paul's contact information for you all, just to have on hand if you have any questions. But again, of course, your initial point of contact is Ricardo or myself or Stephanie. And thank you so much, Paul. And the next presentation is the FDOT Bicycle and Pedestrian Count Program. And Mr. Eric Katz is from FDOT, and he's going to be doing this presentation for us. Ricardo, if you have any words that you want to share before they go ahead and take over, because I know you know a little bit about this program and some of the products of it, please go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I'm just going to let Eric go ahead and present. Actually, I don't know much about the program. I know Buffy, who is part of our team, is actually working directly with Eric on this. So Eric, just go ahead and present and hopefully ask some questions later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Should I be sharing my screen? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's having a great day. Big thank you to the Broward MPO for the invitation to present today. So my name is Eric Katz. I am the program coordinator for the statewide non-motorized traffic monitoring program. And this is a program that is managed out of FDOT's Central Office Transportation Data and Analytics Office. This is the office that has primarily been responsible historically for management of the motorized count program, which entails 350 motorized counters that are counting 24/7, 365 across the state of Florida. That's continuous. And then there's about 18,000 short-term counts around the entire state that are managed by the districts. And I say that up front just to help give you some context and understanding about where we are in the scale of the statewide program today. So I'll move on to the next slide, please. So the program was launched in May of 2018. So for this presentation, I'm going to very quickly run through how we got to where we are today in 2021. We've been a very, very busy program trying to manage multiple different new tasks and challenges every day, but it's been great so far. So I'll quickly run through what we did in 2018, 2019. I'll have a little bit more focused on 2020, and then talk about next steps as we move further into 2021. And I'll be happy to take any questions that anyone may have. And that photo is with the District 4's Indian River County MPO, in which we were doing a short-term deployment on the Trans-Florida Rail Trail Bridge, maybe an hour and a half away north of Broward. All right, next slide, thank you. So starting with the structure of the program, It's to collect statistically valid bicycle, pedestrian, or non-motorized traffic volume data so that traffic volume statistics can be calculated and published annually. And this is how we work in the motorized program and have been for many years. The approach of the structure of the program, we broke it into 4 different parts, or what we call the program pillars. And this is our continuous counts program, which has to do with the process of site selecting and procuring technology, installing equipment, and then managing that site. And this would be continuous counters, mean that once they're installed, they count 24/7, 365. There are currently is 1 continuous counter from the non-motorized program in District 4. There's 11 total around the state, and the one that's in District 4 is on Broward County's New River Greenway. The short-term counts program is how we come to a determination of where the continuous counters are going to go. Once you install a continuous counter, it's in the ground. You can't move it. So you want to be very confident on the selection of the device and the location of where you're going to be getting those counts. So we cast a wider spread, and we do that working closely with local municipalities, and we install portable bicycle pedestrian equipment for 2 weeks. That is our office's definition of a short-term count. And this could be a combination of bike tubes, infrared counters, smart cameras. These are some of the more common devices that we use. And again, our main intention from the TDA perspective is we're trying to determine where we're going to be installing the next continuous counter within that region of the state. But we also know that short-term counts also provide great assistance and a wealth of knowledge and information that local municipalities can use for their local planning efforts. The third pillar is the data repository. So anywhere that we count, whether it's a continuous counter or a short-term counter, our intention is to make that data publicly accessible so that whether you're with FDOT or staff or you're just a concerned citizen, you can all go to the same place. Just as today, you can Google Florida traffic online and you'll get an interactive map that'll show you all of the motorized data that FDOT consistently publishes. And then finally, it's program outreach. And that's part of me being here today. It's our ongoing dialogue that we have with agencies, municipalities across the state. We know that we're a new program. We're trying to get the word out, have the state have the firm understanding about the purpose, the goals of this program, and how that you can partner with us so that we can collectively work together to add more non-motorized count data to the state of Florida. Move on to the next slide. So going to 2018, as I mentioned, it's a brand new program. And at the time, there was not many other states in the country that was doing something like this. We happen to have a national expert on our team, and her name is Liz Stolz. She started the first statewide bike ped count program in the state of Colorado. She helped a few other states get off the ground, and she's also been assisting the state of Florida, FDOT, as well. So did a lot of research in the very beginning of the program, trying to get a best understanding on what are the best practices, what are the lessons learned, what are the national guidelines that we can learn from. So the traffic monitoring guide, which is the kind of like the Bible in regard to traffic monitoring from a US DOT perspective. They have modified that document to now include non-motorized traffic monitoring. And it was through those guidelines that we helped move forward for the statewide Florida program. We did a recommendations report in which we, prior to that report, actually, we had a survey that went out around the entire state. And in summary, the state was asking, where would you recommend FDOT to install, whether it's portable or continuous, a non-motorized counter in your area? And we had an overwhelming response. We had over 450 locations that were reported through that survey. And then we quickly went out into the field and visited about 175 of those 450 locations. And we did that meeting on site with the survey respondent, and we looked at roadway characteristics, on-site documentation of bike ped travel patterns that we were seeing while we were in the field, roadway characteristics, land use. All these factor into the site selection process and help develop a sort of a site selection standard for our office as far as how we would further investigate potential sites as we continue to expand the program. We also didn't have any equipment at that time. So we had our first round of equipment that we procured, and we're still using some of those equipment, and that's bike tubes and infrared counters. Moving on to 2019 is when we started doing more like pilot tests. We took that equipment, started putting it out into the field, right outside of our offices. We worked closely with the city of Tallahassee and the Capital Region TPA in regard to site selection, and really helped us get an understanding about what are the pros and cons about the certain types of equipment that we're using. Or is there better equipment out there? We also developed a partnership with the Public Transit Office, in which we developed a very innovative transit study, which we just wrapped up. And if you were part of the Safe Streets Summit, you would have seen that great presentation that was given by Gabe Matthews and Jeff Widener and a few others. I don't see the slides anymore. Are we okay?
Give us a second here, Eric. I think we lost Amanda. Amanda, you still here? Okay.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm just having a little bit of technical difficulty. Give me 1 second.
Okay, I can see the slides again.
We're good now, I think.
I'm gonna just try to put it back into oh boy. Continue talking and I'll try to get it into
no problem.
presentation mode. I apologize.
No problem at all. So I was saying Safe Streets Summit, and you can get those recordings now that show some of the results of that very innovative transit study, in which we partnered with 5 different transit agencies around the state. Broward County Transit was one of the partners, also SFRTA Tri-Rail, and we identified 5 high priority transit locations in which we brought our traditional bike tubes, infrared counters, and it was Marlin Engineering that provided some very, very interesting smart camera technology, in which we were able to really get more than just counts when it comes to all the different information that the smart cameras can provide. We also wanted to formalize our outreach with the state, as we have been getting and get nonstop emails, phone calls in regard to what's the progress of the program. So we have a combination of newsletters, webinars. We are attempting to still do a statewide meeting once a year. We're in COVID now, so the next one is going to be in May of 2021, and it is going to be in webinar format because we're still in the COVID era. There is going to be a newsletter coming out later this week. So our outreach is ongoing. We also obtained a STIC grant, a State Transportation Innovation Council grant from FHWA, which provided FDOT TDA with the funding to procure and install 1 non-motorized continuous counter in each of FDOT's 8 districts. We also had a website that we were able to complete, and was another form of our ongoing outreach tools that we utilize to keep the state up to date. Next slide. So in regard to 2020, that is really when we started doing some real work around the state of Florida. And as we all know, that was a big year in regard to bicycle pedestrian traffic around the state, around the country, pretty much. So we didn't want to waste any time. We pretty much utilized all program resources to focus on short-term count deployments. We wanted to take our equipment, start moving it all around the state. So though that map that you see in front of you, and just by the way, it's still like in presentation mode, so you're not really getting the full screen at this point. But the purple dots represent everywhere that we've done a short-term count throughout the state of Florida. So that we have about 120 new short-term count stations around the state of Florida. The red dots, the red stars, and there's about 11 there on the map. And those are the 11 continuous count stations that we've installed thus far. If you remember, well, very proud of that number, 350 motorized counters, 18,000 short-term motorized counters around the state. So again, in regard to scale, we're still very, very early in this process. But in regard to what we were able to complete, we successfully were able to complete our first tour around the state, and we had a lot of collaboration with local municipalities all around the state to make this possible. And we also were able to start taking that data, and pretty much what I'm working on right now is evaluating that data and then trying to load it into our still developing non-motorized data repository. So in regard to 2020, it was a lot of counts happening, and it was a lot of installations of continuous counts happening throughout the state. So now moving on into 2021, if I can go to the next slide, please. Oh, yeah, and just here's actually some pictures that'll show you what a short-term count technology sample is. So on the top left, you see on the green bike lane, that is a Metro Count bike tube that's on the bike lane. And then on that pillar, you see a gray device there, and that's an infrared counter pointing away from motorized traffic towards the sidewalk. And that is how we're getting our traffic on the sidewalks. And that's an infrared counter. On the bottom left of that screen, very similar to what you see on the top left. However, it's a eco counter, and this is a device that has both the infrared and the tubes connected into one unit, which is really cool. The top left is two different units from two different vendors, and we're manually putting those two data sets together. Here's a piece of technology where it does it all for you in one. So it's a more expensive, higher grade sensor. And again, we're still trying to test about, what does the most affordable sensor show us versus one that's more expensive. And then if you move to the right of the screen, that pole there that you see is a smart camera. And that's the most expensive device, the most accurate, however. It's got many benefits, but still the challenging part with the cameras is that they're very expensive. So trying to be very strategic, very selective of where we use the smart cameras. And I'll get into a little bit more detail as we move on. Here's some close-up shots of the continuous counters that we've installed thus far. So the top left is an eco counter, permanent counter, in which you see that green post there. That's an infrared counter doing the same thing as I mentioned on the portable side, where you're getting a presence count. In the ground, embedded into the sidewalk there, you can see that diamond, those dual diamonds. That's the loops that is detecting the metal in the bicycles. So that's what gets your bicycle count. And we did that for both sides of the road. So if you look in the distance of that shot, you see another post in the ground, and it's doing the same thing. So that's University Avenue in the city of Gainesville, right in front of the University of Florida. Very big major university, lots of bike ped traffic there. So that was our District 2 installation. Bottom left is the same type of setup where you have a post in the ground with piezo strips instead of loops. And that's the Atlantic Greenway counter in Miami Beach. Same type of setup, but two different vendors. This one's from Q-Free, and they use piezo strips other than loops, but the same approach in regard to with the side fire infrared sensor. On the right side is our more robust, more accurate version of an infrared counter with piezo strips, but this is where we have the infrared counter pointed downward. And that makes it more accurate because if you have groups of runners, walkers, bikers, if they're collectively in one big group, the infrared counter is not going to accurately count every single traveler, especially if it's an infrared beam coming from the side. If it's someone standing right next to another person, which happens a lot, you're going to be undercounting. the overhead sensor takes away that challenge of the occlusion factor. So that's an example of our more robust infrared and piezo count sensor, and that is located in Volusia County on the East Coast Central Regional Rail Trail. Next slide. And here's a snapshot of our oldest counter. And this is where we utilize existing infrastructure. This is an archway located on the St. Mark's Trail in Tallahassee. This was the first continuous count setup that we installed in May of 2018 when the program was launched. And here's a snapshot of the data. And you can see in March of 2020, moving on, you can see that drastic spike in the amount of trail traffic, and this is the most popular trail in Tallahassee. So you can definitely see, and this was, in facilities all across the state, all across the country, lots of spikes in the amount of bike ped activity occurring at this site. Next slide. So the screen that you see now in front of you is our developing non-motorized data repository. And this is going to be where anyone that wants to get non-motorized data from FDOT, this will be the database that you're going to be using. So on the right side, you see all those green dots all over the state. Those represent all of the short-term and continuous counts that now that we've just completed counting around the state, now we're going to be QA/QCing and loading data into this database system. Next slide. This gives you a screenshot example of if you were to count, wanting to get and pull a report off of one of the locations using St. Mark's Trail as an example. This gives you a basic breakdown, and there's different types of reports that you can export. You can do a daily, monthly, yearly report, and you can see how it breaks down the direction of travel that they were moving. Everything is broken down by hour. And then some other metadata that you can consider in regard to the factor group that we have this location associated to. We'll be adding some more, such as FDOT context classification, roadway type, so that when you want to start creating queries, you'll be able to do that. Next slide. So here, this map shows you a screenshot. This is our public facing map that the end of this presentation has the link to the website on how you can see our public facing map that doesn't have any data right now. It's just dots, and it's just showing you where we're working, where we've done work in the past. We're just trying to be fully transparent with the program. So Broward County, out of the 120 short-term count sites that we've done around the state of Florida, we've done the most short-term counts in Broward. We have about 13 locations that we've done short-term counts. And you can see those dots there represent the locations that were involved in our Broward County transit study, in our New River Greenway site selection process. We had 5 different sites that we were looking at as a potential location. So you can see the 5 different dots. And then the red dot is pretty much where we selected, and that's close to the entrance of Markham Park, which we know is a very popular mountain bike destination. And there's a picture of the New River Greenway with the high quality, accurate infrared with piezo strip installation. And as I mentioned, that was installed a few months ago. Still needs to get a modem inserted. Right now, we've been having to do manual extractions. I was actually trying to help Josette last month to get some data pulled from that site, but actually at that moment, it was a COVID testing site, and our technician wasn't able to enter that area of the trail. But we're going to be trying again. But right now, it's still manual extractions of the data, but we're going to be soon upgrading this site to have a modem so that we can do remote polling of this site. And again, this is a site that's 24/7, 365 data collection. And here's a picture of when I was working with Karen from City of Fort Lauderdale. This is one of the locations. This, I believe, is Northeast 13th Street at the towards the approach of Federal Highway. And here's, you can see how we took 2 of our infrared counters and place them on both sides of the road. And this is so that we can get a non-motorized count. This was one of a recent short-term count deployments that we did. So that shows you the sensors out in the field as they were collecting data. Next slide. So here is a snippet of what that data on 13th Street will look like when you're on the dashboard of the non-motorized database traffic data repository. So you'll see that you can, on the bottom, it shows you average daily traffic, average hour, average day of week, and then you can get much more detailed. You can go down to by day, and you can run reports. If you look on the left side towards the bottom left, you can see run report, and you can, select the time period that you're looking for, and then you can get different types of breakdowns and different type of exports for that data. Here's just another picture of another location that we were doing in Fort Lauderdale, and this is on Andrews Avenue towards, I believe, Northeast or Northwest First Street, one of those two. And again, this was a infrared counters on both sides of the road, so that we can get non-motorized count. So that will soon be another dot that'll be adding to our non-motorized database repository. Next slide, you can kind of see where we're at right now. So as we're loading counts in, I have yet to actually QA/QC this data thoroughly. And part of that is involving the local municipality that worked with us on this count. So I'll be working with Karen. We'll be looking closer at this data and try to see, does the data make sense? Were any of the days unusual? We want to flag any days or any hours, any time period where we may not consider the data to be valid. And that's part of really what I'm going to be prioritizing for the next few months is taking that mountain of data that we just collected around the state and working more closely with the local agencies on, is this data valid? Is this data good? Next slide. So getting close to the end here, I mentioned we're now almost going to be finishing year 3 of the program. And all of these green checks, the 4 boxes represent the 4 pillars of what I just went over in regard to the program. Green checks means good job, we're doing great, and we're just going to keep moving forward. The orange checks represent kind of what's our challenge right now. What is my day-to-day challenge? So in regard to continuous counts, we need to validate that these existing continuous counters are actually counting accurately. So we're going to be soon deploying some of those smart cameras to those same locations that we have our continuous counters and verify that what the cameras are seeing is also what the sensors are picking up. So that's part of our what I'm working on right now. Also, operations and maintenance, and this is happening a little sooner than I had anticipated. Some of these counters that we've installed are already starting to malfunction. Some of them aren't working perfectly smoothly. We're getting some issues. Some sensors have already experiencing water intrusion, wildlife intrusion. We've had some wildlife messing with our sensors. So we're starting now, we now need to develop an operations and maintenance plan on how do you get a yearly schedule of having at least 1 to 2 checks where your technician comes, visits the site, make sure that the sensor is working properly. So we're working on that right now. And as you can see, the repository, it's all in orange. That is now my main focus for the program, is validating data, getting the repository to be public facing, and I'll be working on that, to get that as working as soon as possible. And finally, on outreach, as I mentioned, we're going to be targeting May to do our statewide meeting. It's going to be a very, very great program. You'll be seeing a flyer coming out very soon. And we're also, trying to develop and formalize stronger partnerships with FHWA, TRB, other major organizations that can further help strengthen non-motorized data collection in the state of Florida. And then I think that's, contact information. Joey Gordon is my manager. There's his contact information. And then you have myself with my email. And then there is the website that will take you to the non-motorized count program, and there's many links, all of our reports, all of our past webinars, newsletters, everything that we've worked on. We like to populate that website so it's as current as possible.
Thanks, Eric. That was a great, really informative presentation. We do have a couple of you're welcome. We do have a couple of Mentimeter questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and hopefully I won't experience the same technical difficulties that I had previously, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen and allow Ms. Garcia to share hers so that she can ask the 2 questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amanda. So we do have 2 questions for this presentation, really great presentation. And I think that the goal of these questions is to collect feedback for future considerations. Eric?
Yes, exactly. So you're going to see 2 questions very similar, but there's a key distinction. First one is, what Broward Trail facility would you recommend FDOT to prioritize a continuous count station? This is a sensor that would be installed to get 24/7, 365 data collection. And the reason why I'm separating these 2 questions is because of technology. You saw the overhead sensor that we liked. That fits really well on a trail type of facility. Roadways are more challenging, and it's harder to get accurate data on an open roadway. So that's why I'm splitting those 2 questions up. So in regard to the first, it's just a fully separated trail. It's like a shared use path, something like that.
Thank you, Eric, for the clarification. So this is an opportunity for municipalities to propose where should DOT focus their attention for future counts. So take advantage of that and start proposing.
As you can see, you know, we're still very early in the development of the program. So we're trying to make sure that we have, you know, that we hear everyone, so that when we schedule another round of short-term counts, we want to make sure that locations like these have been considered. I want to just, you know, also say that, again, we're still new, and it's still a very, very daunting challenge of trying to do counts all over the state. So we will do our best to prioritize, you know, with our limited funds and resources, we will do our best to count where local experts are saying that we should be counting.
And it just, Eric, I just noticed that there is like maybe 4 or 5 different descriptions for the same trail, like the C14, the Cypress Creek, the Southgate Boulevard Trail, of course the C14 again, all the same. So
okay,
yeah,
that's good. So we have some overlap, which is great. And will I be able to get some of these some of this information at the end? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send it to you.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we will review the information before we send it to you, so there are no duplicates.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Perfect. Go to the next question.
So we have great suggestions here. I see around Pompano Airport. Okay, C14 Greenway again. McNabb and State Road 7. Conservation Greenway. Andrews Avenue, yes, there is a brand new project in Andrews Avenue. And I don't know if we are suggesting also Prospect Road. It was recently finished the construction. I think it was Ricardo, May 2020.
The Prospect Road. I think that one we can, well, hoping somebody can recommend that for the next questions, because right now we're looking at just the trail.
Oh yeah, that's a roadway. Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you, you're paying attention.
Sometimes I do, sometimes.
Perfect, so we have Everglades Conservation. Yeah, that one was already mentioned. So we do have great recommendations here, Eric. Anyway,
Excellent.
These questions are still open. So if you don't see it in the screen, you can still participate. For all of you that still have more suggestions, you can always provide more answers later, okay? And always you can reach out to us so we can provide that information to Eric or even contact Eric directly, because I think this is also something that is not only DOT, but it's also in collaboration with the municipality, because then this information has to be validated. Right?
Absolutely. Yep, exactly.
Perfect. So, oh, too many false positives. Okay.
Too many things.
Yeah.
I don't understand that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Okay, well, maybe we can discuss later. So moving on, let's go to the next question. This one is focus on roadway facilities. And I would suggest Prospect Road here.
Yep. So, and the distinction here, roadway, so meaning more like not a separated trail. This is something that you could say a complete street. And I'm looking on both sides of the road. So we're looking for dual bike lanes, dual sidewalks, or maybe there's just one bike lane on one side of the road for some reason, but like complete streets. And the distinction here is again about technology. The challenge with the tubes, piezo strips, loops, and infrared, it really depends on a choke point, you know, some type of pinch point, like a bridge, where that that sensor is pretty much picking up anyone that entered or left that facility. A roadway is much more open-ended. People can come on, come off at any point, which makes it very difficult for traditional sensor technology to pick up those travelers. The solution for the roadways ultimately is going to be a camera type of sensor. And there are now camera type of continuous counters, not just portable. You can now, there's vendors now that will sell you a counter that is a camera that will be on 24/7, 365. And that's going to be the type of technology that we look at for a roadway. That is going to be, you know, so when we're having to make decisions about technology procurement and site selection, part of my brain is thinking about trails, which you know really well with what we got, roadways, which we know is very important. We've got to count on the roadways, but it's a different type of technology that we're looking at. And funding, I mentioned cameras will certainly be more expensive, but we want to make sure that, you know, we're counting the right roadways.
Thank you so much. I apologize. I had a back internet issue. I was disconnected for a few seconds. So I wasn't able to share my screen, but now it's up. And we do have great suggestions. We have Sunset Strip, State Road A1A, Old Dixie Highway, Las Olas Boulevard, North 14th Avenue in Hollywood and Hallandale Beach, Miramar Parkway, Sunrise Boulevard east of Middle River, McNabb Overpass, Northwest 21st Avenue. And I think most of you realized, Wilson Drive, most of you realize that we have projects there right now. We have complete street projects for bike lanes in place. So it is a good opportunity to compare before and after data.
Absolutely.
So it is thank you for the great news, because we do have before data, and we are working towards working with the municipalities to get updated data to have a comparison, to be able to make a comparison of how complete streets are encouraging more people to go on the streets and bike and walk. So it is great that DOT is doing this. Thank you. Thank you, Eric, for sharing this information with us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you. So Amanda, we can keep going.
Yep.
We have 2 more questions, but we need first a presentation.
Okay, just give me 1 second. And I hope you're seeing the right screen. Hope you're seeing why adopt a complete streets policy. Our next and last final presentation is May Hazlitt from the National Complete Streets Coalition, Smart Growth America, and in partnership with David Francis from the American Heart Association. And I I'm really looking forward to this presentation too. It's a great meeting today. So with that, I'll advance the slides to her first slide and welcome her. Thank you.
Excellent. Hi, all. I'm so happy that I was able to have this invitation to join you all today to talk a little bit about Complete Streets Policy. Like Amanda said, my name is May Hanslick, and I am a program manager at Smart Growth America and the National Complete Streets Coalition. Our organization is based in Washington, D.C., on the ancestral land of the Nacotchtankan people. And I am thrilled today to have a little bit of time to talk to you. So next slide. So I joined Smart Growth America and the National Complete Streets Coalition about 4 years ago. And I just wanted to give a little bit of an introduction as to who we are for those of you who might not know. But we are a national nonprofit who works at the intersection of transportation and land use and economic development. And as an organization, we really strive to advance this vision where we envision a country where no matter where you are or who you are, you can enjoy living in a place that is healthy, prosperous, and resilient. And Smart Growth America is an umbrella organization that includes a number of programs. I'm representing the National Complete Streets Coalition today, but you might be familiar with our sister programs, Transportation for America or LOCUS. Next slide. So what we do, we operate, the National Complete Streets Coalition operates in 3 key areas. We provide technical assistance to communities throughout the country on transportation policy, helping jurisdictions craft policy, update policy, figure out transportation selection criteria, develop programs, etc. We also advocate on the national level, and I'll talk a little bit about this later, but we advocate for an equitable, accessible transportation system, and we engage with congressional representatives to do so. And then lastly, we really try to push the national conversation about what transportation equity means, writing op-eds, running strong social media game, or at least I like to think so, and speaking to large audiences these days on Zoom. Next slide. So a little bit about the flow of how I'm going to try to get through this presentation in, I think, 8 minutes. But I wanted to start with a refresher on why policy is so crucial to any Complete Streets program. I'll talk about our current moment and why passing a Complete Streets policy now would be a really smart move for any jurisdiction in the United States. And then a couple of tangible steps that you can take to move a Complete Streets policy forward in your area. And then I'll leave, maybe there's a little bit of time for David and myself to answer questions, but if not, feel free to follow with me on email. So we know that Broward is not new to Complete Streets. I think that this meeting is a testament to how far advanced that you guys are. I loved hearing all of the work that you guys are doing today. So I recognize that you guys are not starting from level 1. You guys are advanced, and I'm just here to talk a little bit about policy. But next slide. I did want to just start with, I love to lay that foundation of the benefits of Complete Streets are numerous. And I think sometimes we think it's just all about safety, but really it benefits equity, it benefits health, it benefits our local economies, and it provides a network where, most importantly, where people can get to where they need to go. Next slide. So I wanted to start by just thinking about how we define or think about Complete Streets. Sometimes when we ask people what they think of when they think of a Complete Streets, we often hear folks start to describe a really beautiful transportation project, maybe a road that underwent a road diet, they reduced the travel lanes, they added bike lanes, maybe some street trees. Next slide. Which usually means taking a street like this, and that's primarily designed for cars, next slide, and converting it to a street like this. But the cautionary tale of projects like these is that if they exist on their own, meaning that there are 1 or maybe 2 or maybe even 3 projects like this in a community, they aren't actually creating a network for people to get to where they need to go. This would be a lovely stretch to walk downtown, or in this community, but if it doesn't connect to a larger network, then it isn't very useful. Next slide. So we really like to think about Complete Streets as a network, not just one-off stellar projects, but rather a series of connections that allow people to access their communities by walking, biking, or using an assistive device. The photo on the right is an example of a sidewalk literally going to nowhere, where it doesn't make it the easy or healthy choice to walk or bike. But in order to make that an option, you need a good interconnected network. and one that allows people to get around through multiple modes of travel. Next slide. So most transportation planning and engineering, and I'm sure folks are totally familiar with this on the call, focuses on cars first, which means that complete streets projects without a policy, you're going against the status quo. And maybe your community is able to complete one or two of them. Next slide. But if you're really trying to build out a whole network and you're doing it one project at a time, it means that you have to continue to fight those uphill battles again and again and again in order to build that network out. Next slide. Conversely, if you start with your policy, that policy can change the way decisions are made about your streets as a matter of routine. That's what we love to say here, as a matter of routine, which means that instead of having to fight the uphill car-centered approach with each project, you're critically thinking every single time you touch this street about the opportunities to improve the network as a whole. Next slide. And so the strongest policies that we see are going to include a lot of binding next steps that really change the practices and they change the decision-making structure. And these types of strong policies can ensure that complete streets aren't just the one-off projects, but it's routine. And it doesn't mean that every single project is going to look like the one that I showed you earlier with bike lanes and the sidewalks. Sometimes they're not needed because you're working on creating a network, which doesn't mean every street. Ultimately, it just means that every time you're making changes to your network or repaving your streets, every time you're touching your network, you're thinking about the larger, bigger picture of complete streets that you want to create. Next slide. Sometimes we do see that successful programs exist without policies, and it's usually due to strong political will or some awesome complete streets champions pushing it forward, maybe an elected official, a department head that's really in it. Next slide. And that's great, but the challenge is that if that champion moves on or if the political wind switches and you don't have a policy in place, those practices that you worked on creating go with them. And so then it becomes that uphill battle again, which is why the policy piece in particular is such an important next step. It ensures that your program outlasts the potentially temporary political will or champions. Next slide. And so the National Complete Streets Coalition was established about 15 years ago in 2004. And at the time, the standard transportation practice was really creating streets for cars. And I think we're still really fighting that today. But even the idea of complete streets was really limited. And so our coalition came together and we really tried to push forward the idea of reimagining what streets are and what they can be and how we think about the decision-making structure around streets. Which means that our first goal was awareness. And introducing the idea that streets can and should be for more than just cars. But it was a pretty new concept, which is why complete streets policies from about 15 years ago are what we like to call today press release policies, which is they basically give a nice stamp of approval and they say, we support complete streets, but they don't actually change any of the way you do things. So then you don't really get different outcomes because nothing has changed, except for they said, complete streets is a thumbs up. Next slide. So that's why in 2018, we decided to raise the bar. We revised one of our main resources, which is called the Elements of a Complete Streets Policy, which communities use across the country to draft their policies and what we use to evaluate policies. And this new framework emphasizes two areas: equity, or who's benefiting from your transportation improvements, and implementation. How are you ensuring that your policy leads to real change? And as a result, we're seeing two big things. We're seeing some really strong, amazing policies that are being adopted, and we're seeing jurisdictions go back and revise their policies from before to make them a little bit stronger. Ones they may have had on the books for a while, but haven't had a refresh in a while. And so one of the reasons why I'm bringing this up today is not only to give you a little bit of context on why our framework includes these items, but to remind you that this resource exists and is a great first step, in addition to what sounds like some awesome policy guidelines coming from Broward County later this summer, to develop a really strong policy in your community. Next slide. We are also at a particularly interesting time in transportation right now where it might be really useful for you and your jurisdiction to pass a complete streets policy at the local level. Just 2 weeks ago, Senator Markey of Massachusetts and Congressman Steve Cohen reintroduced the Complete Streets Act at the federal level. And this is legislation that would basically promote safer and accessible transportation routes across the US. And so what does it actually do? It would set aside some federal funds to support Complete Streets projects, 5% of annual federal highway funds. And it would require states to create a program to provide technical assistance and award funding to communities in their state to build Complete Streets projects in particular. And then third, it would actually direct localities to adopt Complete Streets policies that meet a minimum set of standards, which will be established later to access that funding, which is why we are saying right now that now is a really excellent time to pass a policy, because the last time this was reintroduced, it made it into the House's Invest Act, and there's a good chance that it will make it into the next bill as well. So now is a great time to pass policy if you're thinking about the national conversation around Complete Streets. Next slide. And if you needed one more reason, we have a new secretary, and I hope that everyone has seen this glorious video that appears that it was taken by a drone somewhere above Washington, D.C. This is Secretary Pete Buttigieg, seemingly commuting home from work. And it is just some really refreshing energy when it comes to the active transportation in this country. I'm not sure if we've seen this, and if we have seen it, we haven't seen it in a while. But we've got a really good partner in the administration right now. As the mayor of South Bend, Pete Buttigieg really showed a great commitment to safety and to Complete Streets. They actually created a pretty cool Complete Streets project that was all about economic development and serving local residents. So not only does the new secretary have firsthand experience with Complete Streets, but some of the statements he's been making in his first couple of weeks in his position have been really strong. Just last week at the National Bike Summit, he was actually quoted saying, "I want you to know that you have many partners and champions here in the department, and I am one of them." So if you weren't motivated before, I think this is a symbol to all of us that it's time to pass a policy. Next slide. But where do you start? I know that Amanda said that you guys have some awesome resources coming. In the meantime, to tide you over, if you are ready to get started right now, I think the best first step is to figure out, does your community even have a Complete Streets policy? And if so, when was it passed? You could review it against our framework, trying to figure out where the strengths and weaknesses are. You could try to start a coalition to get people motivated to work on it with you. Or you could reach out to David or I, David Francis with the American Heart Association, or myself, and we'd be happy to help you figure out what the next step for your jurisdiction could be. Next slide. And the last thing, and I wish I had put a slide on this, but I just wanted to give you all a heads up that we have our flagship report, Dangerous by Design. If folks have heard of it, that is being released this Wednesday. So definitely keep an eye out for that. This report chronicles the preventable epidemic of people struck and killed while walking. So it creates rankings of the most dangerous districts for walking across the US. We have like a top 20, and it takes a look at which are the most vulnerable populations, so who's disproportionately being struck and killed while walking. So make sure and take a good look at that. It's a really good resource for making the case, and is really heartbreaking that we continue to have to release this report. But I will let you use it to help make the case in your community. And I'm over by 3 minutes, but that's it.
Well, it was very worth it. Thank you so much. No, that was a great presentation. Thank you. And I believe we do have 2 Mentimeter questions. We're going to go ahead and throw those out there. Hopefully y'all want to stick around and answer those, because they really do help us. It really informs like future meetings and policy approaches. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and allow Stephanie to share.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, May. And yes, we do have resources available on our website. We do have resolution templates. If you are interested in adopting a resolution this year, thank you for encouragement, May. We really needed that. So the question is, which communities have formally adopted Complete Streets policies through their local government, and when? Yeah, I don't know if you remember a few months ago when we were creating the Complete Streets Design Guidelines 2.0, we make the same question in order to gather information, to update the data that we had and include a map and identify those cities in Broward County that already were doing something towards complete streets. So this could be another opportunity for us to update that map because it's already old. It's 2020, it was 2019, and now why not? We can update it with information in 2021. So feel free to reply the survey, and it's an opportunity for you to be in the map with new information. And of course, we always, in all the reports that we have, all the documentation, the plans that we develop, we always look forward to include and highlight those municipalities that are working towards completing the network and providing better facilities for people. So this is an opportunity. So let's see, we have the city of Sunrise, we have Coconut Creek, Miramar, city of Fort Lauderdale. I know the city of Pompano Beach, you have a Complete Streets Design Guidelines as well. So don't be shy. We have 4 responses so far. It could be from plans to resolutions to executive orders, guidelines, anything that you think that you're doing. It could be a walkability action plan. It could be a bicycle plan, a master plan, sorry. I know the city of Hollywood, we are doing something really great. Recently, you launched a county-wide survey requesting feedback to the people who are using your facilities, by facilities in the city of Hollywood. Well, it seems we had only 4 responses, but we know we are doing a lot in the county, and some of the cities are taking the lead, and we are really happy to, of course, provide the resources that you need and help you become a better city, providing better facilities. Okay, let's go with the next question. Let's see. This one is, what has been the biggest barrier in your community to adopting a policy? This is a really good question. Maybe we can help you go through this. And with the document that Amanda is developing, we can identify what are those policies that could be a good fit for your municipality. Okay, so we do have no support, or no support, basically. Capacity. And other, okay. Okay, so basically it's no support. So no support from a commission, the commission, no support from the public. Feel free to raise your hand and maybe provide some feedback, or maybe we can open up a discussion here. It would be nice to understand what exactly what exactly the barriers that you have. No campaign, okay, no campaign experience, okay. And Smart Pro America has lots of resources. So this is good to know. We can maybe share these resources through CSEC and see how can this be helpful for you to start working towards having more complete streets in your city. Okay, capacity. So it seems no support is the most popular answer.
Well, thank you, Stephanie. I think that concludes the Complete Streets Advisory Committee meeting today. Our next meeting is on May 11th, I believe. And it's most likely that will continue to be in the virtual Zoom setting for at least a couple of meetings to come. And I would like to just open it up for the last minute or two. If anybody has any questions or anything last minute that they'd like to share or say, please feel free to do so.
Just one thing from my end, Amanda, just thank you guys for presenting May. That was a very inspirational presentation. It is about policies. We don't have the policy in place. If we don't have the policy in place, we can't implement the projects. What happens here in Broward more often than not is get a commission that supports it and the next commission doesn't. So we get the, we get the momentum and then it immediately stops. So thank you for doing that. I mean, policies, they have to be embedded in your processes, your ordinances, land use policies, everything has to be there. Networking makes sense. We have to have network because, if you get this beautiful facility that doesn't go anywhere, it's really, you're not doing much. But it could be the start of a bigger network, so that's very important. And again, now is the time. We got the administration supporting us, so thank you for reminding us of that. I think we're ready to go. I think we at the MPO, we're 100% committed to this to the concept. We want to promote it, and we're going to take advantage of this. I think thank you for your presentation. And Eric, the same thing. The data is very important. We got to show that we're making a difference. We need to show that we're actually getting people to walk and bike and creating healthy communities, safer roads. So thank you for that. Thank you both.
All right, thanks everybody. Appreciate it. See you in 2 months.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.